All right, Amanda, let's take a look at your essay. So, starting off with your hook right away, I know I've talked to you about this before. The hook is okay. Media really has a massive take on hysteria. I think you can do this in a different way to set it up, but I'm not sure if I talked about your hook specifically. Excuse me, with you. But the questions that follow: does media draw attention to things when having more control over media stop mass hysteria? Those questions are interesting follow ups, and even though it's two in one, I think they are appropriate enough that because they are not right away in the hook, because your first question is kind of a yes or no answer, but because you set up the essay with something else, I think it does work. I just think you could potentially make your hook a little bit stronger. So, with that in mind, looking at the rest of this, you have an example which is a hypothetical, which is okay for the introduction. Um, the problem is, would have you more control about it? Actually, you know what? Never mind. That's fine. People would start to post what happened, and then you want others would be cautious to buy one. I don't know if it's just me being a skeptic because I am from Missouri, but sorry, I had to throw the idiom in there. But I don't know if it's me being a skeptic, but I don't know if this would necessarily affect the sales of trampolines. I think this is something that we've been a little bit more commonplace for it. I don't know if it would necessarily happen. So I think you could potentially word this in a different way. Um, but it's not necessarily wrong either, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Right here, you have the wrong word. This is therefore should actually be one word. There and then FORE. This should all be one word, and that should be connected. Media would have an effect on the business of trampolines. Media has the power to reach lots of people. And then you have your thesis: the media is more potent than human nature. I think this is pretty good. I think the main thing with your writing so far that I'm noticing is the sentences can be a little bit short and choppy. I think you can do a little bit more to add some fluency and add some more variety and length to your sentences. So even here, you could say, as evident through, or you could say, even say, in the advent of media, society is now at a time where media has the power to reach lots of people. So overall, your introduction is pretty good. It sets up a little bit of what's going on. I think your hook can be improved, but your thesis is good as we go there. So I had misspoke to you when I talked to you about your paper. So let me tell you, I'm not dinging you on this, but technically, the laughter epidemic had nothing to do with media. Okay, so your topic sentence, let's start here, has a huge impact on hysteria. I think there's a way you can make it a little bit better, even if it's something like media has the ability to cause mass hysteria to spread. What I got wrong was other kids heard stories about kids laughing, so then even more kids started to. For some reason in my head, I don't know if this was a different example I was thinking of, but I realized it's too late. So that's why we are pretending this is how it actually happened. They heard it, but in my head it happened because it was on the news, but that's not necessarily what happened. So laughter affect 1,000 people. You have the wrong verb form here. You want lasted. So word choice and verb form are things I'm noticing with your grammar. Letter closure is 14 schools, which goes back to the media spreading it, which is fine. And then just like the writing tremor, I put, oh, wait, here we go. Put a comma here, just like the this would work if you put a comma if you had already mentioned it. What you would want to say instead of something like, just like the laughter epidemic, there was the writing tremor epidemic where the children had a massive outbreak from hearing stories in gross tins about a girl starting to tremor in class. So all of this, you have the wrong word there. You need THEIR, so you have a homophone concern here, which would spread to students, parents, and the community. In these cases, media cause hysteria to spread. So aside from the grammar, if this actually happened with media, how it did, because I misspoke on this paragraph, and that is 100% my fault. I just was not thinking about it. This actually works pretty good for paragraph because you have evidence and you have some analysis. I think you could just focus a little bit and hone in on your bringing it back to the thesis right away, because this is analysis, and then where is it? And media spreading it. So you have a lot of evidence. Bam. Bam. You have a lot of evidence, but you could take a little bit more time for your paragraph to focus on the analysis component of it, and maybe even talk about how, even because let's be real, there's a human nature aspect to this. If you read the articles, talk about why that doesn't matter and why media is more potent in it anyways. And then your next topic sentence is better aside from this spacing concern, where you need it to be, you need a space there and you need a space there after the comma. But media changes the way people live, feel, and go about their life. I think that's a pretty strong topic sentence, because now you're talking about how media affects people. And you talk about Clinton and the attacks in 2011, false allegations. But let's look at this a little bit. For example, Hillary Clinton stated it was allowed, referring to email practices. Hillary and Donald Trump, you don't need a comma, both went against each other with lots of evidence of bias. Ooh, good. In order to make them appear valid over the internet. The media changed how people felt about Hillary. When they heard that she could have been the cause for American deaths, they didn't want to vote for her. You have a contraction there. You want to get rid of that, just like it did not. Maybe if media wasn't involved, Hillary could have been president. Media can change anyone's life, even if they don't have it. So I think you have some good analysis and some good examples here. What I would say is, don't give me the hypothetical bullcrap. Maybe if media wasn't involved. Just say right away, if media was not involved, Hillary's outcome could have been different. I think just maybe is a weak word, and even could is as well, but I think it works differently in this context. But you have a lot of things in that article that talks about how they went after Hillary and even Trump for it. And it does affect people. The only thing I would give you another air of caution on is she did win the popular vote. But you can talk about how it switched people's minds and they looked at her as this, and because it was spread, and then keep tying back into that analysis of the bias that happened. Here we go. In your next paragraph, your topic sentence is not a complete sentence. The beauty of human nature. What you're missing from this is a verb, because each sentence needs a subject and predicate, and the predicate deals with, excuse me, don't know if that is moving a desk. And you're missing the predicate, which has the verb there. So, and I wouldn't ask questions in your body paragraph. Just come right out and just say what it is. And especially because you're addressing the opposition, you could just say something like, while human nature, no, hold on. You could say, media is potent in developing mass hysteria more so than human nature. Even though human nature is a part of it. No, maybe you want to do it for later. Just come right out with the topic sentence about people saying, despite the media concerns, there is a perspective out there of human nature having a larger effect. This right here, this is a homophone issue. You have the wrong effect here. You need E. There's this acronym called RAVEN. Remember, affect, verb, effect, noun. So does this have an effect on someone? And that would be noun. Does this have a blank on someone? Because have is your verb in that case. And they talk about human nature being witch trials, accusing them of being witches. When you have, also you want a comma after that, you have a homophone here. And so far what I'm noticing is homophones are probably the main things. Homophones and contractions are the grammar things that are getting you. And then this right here, this is pretty good analysis, but there's a way to make it better. Instead of saying, if there were social media in Salem, then accusations for witchcraft would spread more. We can't say that. That's an unwarranted extrapolation. You can't, it's just unwarranted. You can't say that. What you can say is, bring in an evidence, bring in a specific example about how media perpetrated something spreading, and then tie that back into Salem, saying similar to Salem, because they didn't have the media, as we see in media, because it causes this to spread, we could have seen a different picture of Salem had there been media. So overall, this should be one word. Media has more of an impact on people rather than human nature. Good, restating it. Media spreads faster. Oh, this is good, and you're recapping some of the things. Commas, you want to make sure there's a space between the comma and the next word. Media is the reason, cause, and explanation for mass hysteria. I think you can end your conclusion better, but you do restate it and have your main points pretty insightfully. You have a homophone there as well, but homophones and contractions are your big thing. Your transitions are pretty good. Your word choice is okay. I think your style is just a little bit choppy, and I think you can play around with form a little bit. And then, as I talked with your opposition, you have some clear topic sentences. You do talk about it a little bit. Where was I going with that? Opposition, you talk a little bit about your perspective of it. I just think you need some specific examples. But overall, Amanda, you have a pretty good essay right here. I think you could definitely rewrite this if you would like to. But with that being said, I think the grammar is a little bit of thing. I think you have some short and choppiness, especially with what I told you with some misinformation. But I think overall, looking at how you're using evidence and analysis, you're doing pretty good, and I know you worked hard on this, so good job.